Welcome guys to this video. This is just a quick little overview of one of these diesel heaters. Most of you probably seen them before. This is the H calorie, or however you say it, 2kW. Just for a little bit of reference, on 1 gallon of diesel on low, it should run about 44 hours. On medium, it should run about 26 hours, and on high it should run about 14 hours. Just for reference, this one in particular was about $110. It also has altitude adjustment, temperature or thermostat control, so it should turn on and off, and it also has a quiet pump, which is one of the biggest complaints. So what you'll get in this kit is pretty typical: exhaust pipe, the quiet pump, little filter, has your intake with a little screen filter thing, has a little bit of short ducting. This is actually nice, has a T that it comes with, so if you want to send it 2 different directions. Rotating vent, silencer, muffler, has a plate, but I will show you a different one that I got. Bunch of hardware. And there's also the controller. Like I mentioned, this one has thermostat control, which will basically allow you to set the temperature, and it'll turn on and off and try to maintain that temperature. I believe it controls the fan speed and all that too. So it's pretty easy for the most part to connect. Just has a connection for the heater itself. Has a pump connection, and then the controller itself. Obviously your battery. The other issue a lot of people have when they install these is the wire ends up being too small depending on how far it is from your battery. So in most cases you're going to be better off to just cut this all, wherever good is, off as much as possible and use like 10 gauge wire. These draw roughly almost 15 amps when they first start up, so especially for a long run, a lot of people have low voltage issues, errors, and you can eliminate most of that by using a larger wire. Just go straight to 10 gauge. You can also shorten as much of this wire as possible. Shorter, larger wire is always good for all this low voltage stuff, 12 volts, etc. And also, going back to this fuel filter is really cheap. Not much to it. It's really just a little metal screen. Not very good. There's another style for about 15 bucks, I think, on Amazon. This is just a quick little view of the other filter I was describing to you. You can see it's got a canister there, and the drain right there, that's for draining the water that accumulates if you have bad fuel. So it's generally just an overall better filter. You can see the quality of the fuel, see if there's water in there, see if there's something that needs to be addressed. And this does need to be mounted vertical in that orientation so that the water drains to the bottom, because it'll separate and you'll just see it sitting down there. The other strong suggestion I'll make is Don't use the included hose, fuel hose. And you'll want to get one of these standpipe kits. This also comes with the standpipe itself, nylon or plastic, whatever it is, fuel hose, and then that also has better clamps, you know, little short sections, etc. This comes with the large sealing rubber gasket and the nut, and then this goes down into your tank. So you put the hole in the top of your tank. There is an included 2.6 gallon tank or 10 liters that comes with. Those are very well known to leak. They come with a little fitting you put in the bottom. Don't put a hole in the bottom of your fuel tank. It always makes a mess. It makes for difficulties. So order a standpipe kit and always run into the top of your tank. It's easier, it's cleaner, it's more convenient if you ever have to service anything. So get the standpipe kit. There is another one that has just a small bulkhead type bolt. If you want to use that one, it's fine, but I like this one because it has a real large surface to seal real well, and that you can basically put in any tank. You could use a 5 gallon, you know, gas can or whatever. You will need to put a vent in any other tank that doesn't have one. You can buy little tank vent kits. Just make sure they're the same type that go all the way through and clamp, and then has the vent on the top. So that way, you know, it's not the little cheap plastic one, screws in type thing. That's not going to hold up over time usually. This is the other style of plate that I recommend. This is called a turret mounting plate, and you can get them in different heights. This one I believe is 160 millimeters, which is like 2 inches. In my application, I got a thick floor with insulation, so I wanted to protect all that. If you're just going through like a steel floor or something, you could probably just use one that comes with, but then I just took some rubber and made a gasket, so it makes it really easy. Some people I've seen, you know, silicone them down and all that, but for servicing it's going to be a real pain. So I recommend something easily removable. Okay, the actual connections, like I mentioned, the plug is pretty easy. Then you have your 2 exhaust and intake here, and you have your fuel line fitting. The one farthest from the fuel line is your exhaust. So this one's intake, this one's exhaust. And really it's pretty much that easy. You just put the clamp on, slip it on there, and tighten the clamp down and run your pipe. The other thing you want to keep in mind when you're running the exhaust pipe is it should always be running downhill. So don't make it go up at all. Don't go up over the frame or anything like that, because you want the condensate to be able to drain out. So that's again another mistake a lot of people make. They just don't realize. So what I'm doing here is running the fuel line through the turret plate, because I'm going to have the pump and filter inside, so there will be just one fuel line coming in, and then it will be fed here, which will go down through and then just loop up and come into the heater. So what I did for that is just a little 1/4 inch grommet. Right on the edge. 5/16 hole worked really good. Just stuff the grommet in there, slide it through, and that way the line is protected. I may put a little piece of vinyl hose or something over here just so it can't rub on the heater itself. Since the heater does vibrate, it could potentially cause a problem over time. So a little piece of rubber hose, whatever, fuel line, just about anything, vinyl hose, anything will work. The other thing I did was, just for a slightly better fit, is notched out, instead of the small hole, I just opened it up because it was just touching a little bit. I'm not a fan of anything touching a line like that. It tends to create a hole over time from vibration, cutting through it like a saw. So here I made a mark as a reference so I can see how far in it has to go. So this is what I have now. Basically, I want the fuel line to run through this turret, so this whole unit will just slide right out from the inside. So to do that, I put a grommet. That's a 1/4 inch inside hole. It's just about perfect size. Drilled a 5/16 hole. I don't know if you can see it, but right on the edge, stuff the grommet in there, and the hose fits right through it just about perfect. And then I used a piece of windshield washer hosing. I just had this laying around. Size is about perfect. Has, I don't know, a couple feet or whatever. So that will just help any vibration potential causing problems. You don't want basically anything sitting on a line rubbing over time. It can cause a leak. And the same thing under here. You want to keep the fuel line away from the exhaust because that gets hot. So I'm going to loop it around here, and when I get it in there, hold it away. So this is basically what it looks like underneath. You just want to keep the line here out of the way. Keep your exhaust pipe routed, always downhill. Otherwise, if you had to, you could drill a hole, real small hole in it to allow it to drain. And I think I mentioned, if not, I also caulked the inside of the hole and let it dry for a while before I put the turret in there. And I just have to angle this before I tighten it down. Make sure the elbow is angling the right direction. And that's what it looks like sitting in there. In hindsight, with the angle of the exhaust, I probably should have put this line on the other side. Might keep it away better. This is a very basic install till I get everything else in here. But essentially, the fuel line comes up through a hole, goes through the filter, and then goes into the fuel pump. These pumps need to be mounted at an angle, roughly 30 to 45 degrees, I believe it is. If you haven't worked with these or any fuel pumps before, they're pretty much always labeled with a direction of flow. And a lot of times the filters are too, so just make sure you follow that. So the output goes through here, which ends up going down through here, down through, and then up into the bottom. These clamps are the better type than the just spring ones. You can clamp them down real good. These are required on this black rubber hose. You can't use a spring type on this type of line. You can only use that on the rubber stuff. So make sure you use this type. And you don't need to crank them down real tight. They just need to be snug. Make sure your line can't pull out or twist. So this is, again, the temporary completed installation. I just thought I'd throw a tip in here. If you want to help protect your fuel line, you can use split loom, wire split loom. You could put over there, like if you're running underneath, it'll really help protect, keep the line, especially the soft rubber stuff, keep it from chafing. But like I mentioned, don't use that green stuff that comes with it. You're going to want to buy some of this. I believe this is a 2mm inside diameter ID and 4mm outside diameter, or OD. But anyway, moving on. Still got a few screws to put in there, but on this controller, you have to prime it because there's no fuel in the line, obviously. There are ways to make it faster. One thing you can do is, before it's actually connected to the heater, if you wanted to pressurize your tank, and that will push the fuel through, because the tank pressure is higher and it will push it through pretty fast. Otherwise, you can just do the prime. And on this one, you press the up and down buttons and hold it. So it'll just sit there and start pumping. And when you let go, after, I don't know, 4 seconds or something, it'll stop. So you have to push and hold it. So I'll do that for a little bit and let it get close. Okay, just a quick little update, and you can see it's pulling fuel. And you want to basically see a nice solid stream. And you can see it moving right there, and we're getting real close. Still a lot of air bubbles. But there's probably enough in there now. Yeah, as you can see, it's getting pretty solid. So we'll try firing it up then. Started on high. And it's going to start warming the glow plug. This is where you get your largest draw the first minute or so. Okay, now you can hear it firing a little bit. And I have had this running, testing for a while before. Okay, now it's starting to go. Push some fuel. Sounds like it's ramping up a little bit. there are ways to quiet it down. Like for example, this is attached directly to the plywood. If it's on your frame, it'll tend to resonate through. So some people will attach this to a piece of firm foam and then screw the foam to the plywood. So that way you don't get the direct sound transfer. There's other boxes you can buy or insulation you can wrap around it, stuff like that. It is kicking out some air. This one has 6 speeds, or it has the thermostat control. I haven't actually tried the thermostat control because I didn't have anywhere and I could test it till now where it would work in a reasonable time period. So you can see after, I don't know, only like a minute, maybe 2 running, it's already up about a full degree. This is a smaller space, so not too much. And let's take a look at the outside. So there it is. It's pretty warm. No leaks. And just in that time, gone up even more. Literally just stepping outside, looking at it, coming back in. I really can't see the fuel moving anymore. I think all the air's on it pretty much. So it really just looks yellow. Now in case you didn't know, you can also run the off-road diesel in these, which is the red at truck stops. It's usually going to be referred to as reefer. Otherwise, some gas stations will just sell it as off-road diesel. You can use home heating oil, same thing. And you can also run them on kerosene. Some claim they run cleaner on kerosene. Okay, little status update. Temperature's up. It's been running for a little while. This is still on high. On high, you can just barely hear the pump. Again, that's with no real sound deadening or anything. So I'll turn it down to 3, which is medium. It goes up and down kind of slow. You can hear it ramping. And right now, this is probably 14 inches away from it, from the pump. So you can obviously hear it. but it's nothing like many of the others. So it does appear to be quieter. And then we'll go down to low. I think that's all the way down. It's just barely audible. Just a real low, steady hum. Still cranking out some heat. I hope that gives you some idea, maybe some tips. Shows you the basics. Try it out, see if you like it. Put it in your garage, your RV, trailer. Heck, you could put it in your house too. Apparently some people are using them.